Hey, it's Vicky, and today I'm here to talk about the books that I read in November. It was kind of a mixed bag this month. But yeah, I read 5 books, which has pretty much been how it's been going for me. I had an average rating of a 3.35, so not the greatest, but not the worst I've had either. I read 1 print book, 1 ebook, and then 3 audiobooks. So let's dive in. So the first book that I completed in November was one that I read on my Kindle, and I read this one because I was trying to find a book to fulfill the Buzzword Reading Challenge for November, which was to read a book with the word only in the title. So I read The Only Safe Place Left is the Dark by Warren Wagner, and this is a horror novella. And it's about a man who is HIV positive, and he is living through basically a zombie apocalypse. And this apocalypse, or what have you, has been going on for decades, and he has survived, but circumstances happen that make him run out of his medicine, and so he has to venture out and try to find some. So that's sort of the whole story. And what I liked about this probably the most was the zombies in here. It had a very unique sort of take on the zombie. In this book they were called the Afflicted, and they were just different. Typically, you know, when you think of zombies, you think of like The Walking Dead, or you think of Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead. And the zombies are always just mindless sort of machines just wanting to eat human flesh. But these zombies were different. And so I liked the sort of unique take that the author had on the zombie. This book definitely gave The Last of Us vibes, probably because similarly to The Last of Us, this apocalypse happened like 20 years ago, and our main character has somehow survived these 20 years. So he's very self-sufficient. He has a lot of those sort of survivor instincts. And so it kind of gave similar vibes to The Last of Us. So if that's a show that you really like, you might like it. As far as the writing went, it was a little bit weak at times, and the pacing was a little off sometimes, especially like the end. I felt like it was very rushed. And despite it being a horror novel, there were parts that I was like, this is a little unrealistic, the horror elements aside. But overall, I enjoyed this book. I think that it had, like I said, a kind of a unique story. I liked the characters, and it was just cool. So I gave it 3 stars. The next book that I read in November, I listened to on audio, and it was The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. And this one, I purchased this book 2 years ago. It actually popped up in my book haul revisit that I just did. And so that was kind of interesting. But this one is a sci-fi book, I would call it, but I guess it kind of also has some horror elements too. But it's about our main character, whose name was Evelyn. She's a doctor, scientist. She's a scientist. And she has developed clones, like the ability to make human clones. And so this story centers around her husband and a clone and some stuff that happens with the husband and the clone and her. And I really liked this. I think it kind of packed a lot into it because it's pretty short. It's like 250 pages, I think. And I don't typically read sci-fi, as you guys know, but this kind of teetered on kind of literary and also kind of, like I said, kind of horror too. I actually read, what was that book? Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey last year, and I really loved that one. I did like that one a little better, but it's because I think that one had a storyline and themes that I tend to gravitate towards more than sci-fi type stuff. But this one was interesting. I liked the themes about, obviously, clones, you know, the sort of ethical questions that come up when discussing clones, human clones. Also deals a lot with marriage and the sort of gender roles within a marriage, what typically a wife is supposed to do or want, and what the man is supposed to want and do, and you know, how sometimes those things can become an issue in a marriage because the people in that marriage don't necessarily fit into those norms, into those stereotypes. So I thought that was really interesting. And also just about, I feel like it also had a lot of just sort of themes about womanhood. So overall, this was pretty good. Like I said, it isn't typically a book I would read, but I did enjoy it. I gave it 3.5 stars. So the next 2 books that I read in November, I'm not going to talk about in detail here because I did a vlog about them. I did another episode of my 100 Epic Reads project, and the 2 books, yes, 2 books I read in that vlog. I read were The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I know I'm saying that wrong and I apologize, but I gave this one 4 stars. And then I also read Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, and I gave this one 2.5 stars. Didn't enjoy this one that much, but if you want my deep thoughts on both of these books, go check out that reading vlog. And then the last book that I read in November was a nonfiction book called The Opposite of Spoiled: Raising Kids Who Are Grounded, Generous, and Smart About Money by Ron Lieber. I listened to the audiobook and Ron Lieber also narrated this. And this one is basically just a book about how to talk to your kids about money in general. Not only like how to do allowances, but how to teach them how to manage their money, save their money, and just how to make talking about money not such a taboo and uncomfortable subject like it is for a lot of people. So I found this book to be extremely digestible, very, very easy to read. And I think some of the tips he gave were really good and ones that I definitely want to try to implement with my kids. One of them is, you kind of see it on the cover, he suggests that when you give your kids an allowance, that they have 3 separate jars, and they sort of divide their money into the money they're going to spend, money they're going to save, and then money they're going to give, because it also sort of teaches kids about how to be a little more philanthropic, I can't think of the word. You know what I mean, to be giving. This was good. I definitely, like I said, want to implement some of this stuff. And I found it helpful. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. All right, so those were the books that I read in November. Most of the books I read were pretty short. So yeah, let me know down below if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, and let me know what your favorite read of November was, because I would love to know. And I guess that's it. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week, and I will chat with you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.